morning.
Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome back to LoveBabz, LoveTalk. This is the second hour, and I have the pleasure of talking to Kat Morris. She is my guest this morning. I am delighted to have her. Let me tell you a little something about Ms. Morris. She is a scholar activist with a Master's of Public Policy degree from UConn, and she founded the UConn Collaborative Organizing, UCCO, to promote solidarity and intersectionality in social and environmental justice movements. Hello, dear.
Hi, thank you
How
for
are
having me.
you?
I'm well. How are you?
I've been dying to have this conversation ever since I met you at Bloom.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. You brought up Bloom, so I have to promo an event I'm organizing right now. I'm having a Friendsgiving at Bloom next Monday.
Yay!
Come get some vegan food and some wine and good vibes. It'll be a great time.
Okay, girl, I might have to show up for that.
It'll be good. Yeah.
I definitely have to show up for that. All right, so tell me about the intersectionality of social justice and environmental issues. Where should we be positioning ourselves?
Well, there are so many ways that folks can position themselves. When I talk about organizing and kind of showing up in the world with respect to intersectional environmental justice, I like to use the acronym LOVE. This is my TED Talk, but so it stands for, LOVE, it's L means to listen to learn. O is to organize with an open mind. V is to value a variety of perspectives. And E is to engage everyone in every way possible. And, in doing that, you're allowing yourself to have an open mind, take an active interest in how other people engage with the world so that can inform the work that you do. Because it recognizes that you need collective genius in order to solve the world problems that we have. And that doesn't necessarily, have to be, oh, I need to solve every single problem in the world, me as an individual. But, say there's something going on in your community. It would help you to talk to other people in your community to figure that out. So that's just like one frame of thought. But also like for you, I'm sure you learn something every time you have a different guest on. And from that collective knowledge, you can kind of shift the culture in a different way or kind of even just change your everyday life. And I try to shift the culture of organizing in that way and different levels. So that's my initial thought. But I can be more explanatory about the concept of intersectionality if you'd like.
I think that's a good one. So when did you know that this was your calling? When did you know that this was the road that you wanted to go down?
That's a big question. I'm still in the space of trying to figure out my calling in terms of what it looks like professionally, because I think I learned at a really, really young age that I'm very outspoken. So advocacy in some sense, is kind of built into my personality, built into how I show up. When I was really young, my aunt, people used to call me Mouth because I always had something to say. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right, right? Or I was like constantly getting in trouble for being in grown folks' business. You know what I mean? And it's just like, because for me, like, the classic adult answer, I would always say, why this, why that? And they'll be like, because I said so. And I'm like, that's not going to work for me. Like, I need you to justify this. And this is me at like 5, right? And so to some extent, of course, like my personality made this work like fitting for me. But how exactly I want to show up, I'm not entirely sure yet. I've worked for great nonprofits like Health Equity Solutions. I've worked for federal EPA. I've worked for academic research oriented institutes that are also doing environmental research and environmental justice work. I've worked for state government. I'm still trying to figure out how exactly I want to show up. But what I do know is that I love talking to people. I love organizing events. I love raising awareness. I love connecting with people and the planet, right? So
tell me about that. Tell me about this walk to environmental issues, because it sounds like the skill sets you have are transferable. So
Yeah.
you could pick any entity and do well, I think. But tell me about the environmental piece
Mm.
that has engaged you.
Yeah. Mm. When I was really, really young, I have always been really into trees. The more I reflect on it, the more I see it. I've been climbing trees since I was a child. You know, my parents are Jamaican immigrants. They came over here, so we would spend time in Jamaica in the summers. We go there for a couple of months, and it would just feel so great to just be surrounded. Any yardies listening, my mom from Westmoreland, and it's just baka bush. It's just the trees, like that's it. You know what I mean? That's where all the farmers live. And so, that felt so good. And when I go back, like that feels so perfect. So part of me feels like there's something ancestral there, you know what I mean? Where like they've been on this land, and I get a connection, I get a thrill, I get serenity from hugging a tree that I know my grandmother hugged. Like that kind of just feels different. It hits different, you know? And so and I love seeing how people, they want a mango, they go climb the tree. They want some guineps, they go climb the tree. You know what I mean? Like that type of connection to land is so beautiful to me. And as I've gotten older, or growing up in America, I still had that in different ways. And then what really sparked environmentalism for me was that when I moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut, for high school, it was a sharp juxtaposition. So where I'd been living in really super white and rural and like areas, so I had all the woods, I had the hiking space, I had the berries to pick, you know what I mean? And then losing that and seeing that, in seeing that we don't have the same type of tree canopy, we do have an excess of air pollution and different forms of waste incinerators, gas plants in our neighborhoods, not the other neighborhoods, not Trumbull, not Ansonia, like, but in Bridgeport, that kind of lit my soul on fire in a different way. Cause I was like, wait a minute. The world wasn't looking like this when I was around people who didn't look like me. But now that I am around people who do look like me, suddenly my environment is quite different. Suddenly my environment is no longer healthy. Suddenly I don't have access to basic things that sustain human life in a healthy way. And really, I think it is the fact that I've lived both, I've experienced both. So in those predominantly white areas, I was constantly inundated with like interpersonal racism, but not systemic racism. You know what I mean? But then once I switched over to Bassett, it was less interpersonal racism and more systemic in the sense that my access to resources, opportunity, health and wellness features of a neighborhood diminished. And that I can say a lot more, and I'd love to talk more about Bridgeport and specifically Bassett High School, because that's where I graduated from. But I don't know if you like pauses or if I should keep going.
No. No, I mean, listen, I I was talking to someone that I just met yesterday who works in the environmental field.
Cool.
And I had said, he lives in Vermont.
Oh.
So, and he's going to be doing some work in Florida, around clean water initiatives and stuff like that.
Nice.
So I had asked him, hey, do you think we're good stewards of the earth?
Who's we?
And he said, no, we are absolutely not good stewards of the earth. And so that always gets me thinking about, what does that mean? And he said, it's almost too late to try to do anything different. But
I disagree.
I kind of disagree too, but that's not my field of expertise. But I do come from a place of always thinking we could do anything, and anything we love can be saved. And
yes,
so so I'm always in that space. So talk to me about what that looks like for you.
Yeah.
What does it look like to be a good steward or of the earth?
Yeah. So I agree so I understand your friend's sentiments, because the phrase do or die.
Yes.
Kind of where we're at right now in the climate space. So it's really easy though, for if you live in that space and that sentiment, it's really easy to feel like, well, there's nothing we can do. It is what it is, yada, yada, but I think like when you lose hope and lose faith like that, that's when the decline can get sharper because now no one wants to do anything. Everyone's jaded. So I like to, again, I try to operate from the space of love and radical love. And for me, that entails responsibility, but it also fosters connection and community. And so I think that's the first step. Like you need to have a sense of connection to be a good steward of the land. I kind of, I just described the fact that I do have a really strong connection to nature that, someone who might have grown up in a city might not have because they might not have access to parks and lands and stuff like that. They might not even have trees in their backyard or on their street. So it starts with the connection, but then that moves into responsibility. Like when you think of anyone you're deeply connected with, you want to protect them, you want to care for them, you want to nourish them. You want people who are harming them to be held accountable, right? And so right now we are those people. We need to be held accountable for the way that we're harming the environment. And that looks like being really intentional and being really, really intentional and aware, but making the right decisions because we don't really have time to waste anymore. And we don't have time to be like, oh, I don't know, we used to do that in the past and it was okay. It wasn't okay, hence why we have a problem now. And so a really specific example right now is I'm spending a lot of time advocating for Bassick High School, which is my alma mater. That's where I graduated from in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I'm advocating it for it because they currently, Bridgeport's old. Listen, the old school is dingy. They need a new one. I'll be honest, it was messed up when I was there, it's like 100 years old now. And so they want to build a new one, but they considered rebuilding it where it currently stands. They considered rebuilding it a little bit down the street, but now they want to build it in the south end of Bridgeport next to right off the coast of the Long Island Sound, right next to Seaside Park. And they demolished an old UB building to kind of put it there next to the field, kind of off of 115 Broad Street in Lafayette. The issue with that is that it's in a FEMA designated flood zone. So yes, so like a FEMA designated special hazard area flood zone, right? So it is particularly susceptible to flooding. That same area has a lot of CSO issues or combined sewer overflow issues. So you don't even need a Hurricane Sandy for sewage overflows to happen because that's how, the infrastructure is not good. And on top of that, it's next to two deep EJ designated affecting facilities. So as per DEEP and the DPH, there are two major facilities that cause a lot of air pollution, making that area an environmental justice community, making that area a climate vulnerable community. And those are two gas plants. So the PSEG gas plant, this is right where where the coal plant just got shut down? This is right there. It's right there. This is a 10-minute walk. This is a visual. You can see it. You know what I mean? And the coal plant just shut down last year, but the gas plant is like newer. So that's going to go for how.
So they want to build a high school there?
Yeah. Exactly. You heard the question mark at the end of your sentence? Exactly. Not only is there two gas plants right there, there's also two hydrogen plants. And people are like, oh, but hydrogen is less bad, blah, blah, blah. It still runs on fossil fuels, still bad for the environment, still bad for people's health. And yeah, and an incinerator not too far away. You know what I mean? Less walking distance, but definitely all of these things are breathing distance. And it's like, why would you want to build a high school there? And on top of that, they didn't do the proper environmental impact assessments that a city is supposed to do and that a state is supposed to do. So we don't even know how much this is going to impact Seaside Park, which is also right there, how much it's going to impact the Long Island Sound. So I'm sure your friend who's riled up about water quality would be quite upset about this because it is a problem and it could facilitate increased runoff into the sound and stormwater pollution there. It's going to increase more pollution into the park, and a whole slew of other variables that we can't account for, again, because those assessments weren't done. And there's been no public comment. So the residents who are going to be affected, who live in the area, the students, the teachers, the staff who'd work at Babz, like none of them have been able to weigh in on this and say, hey, maybe not, right? So for me, it's like, how do I raise awareness? I've been going hard on social media, but also trying to, get people to a public hearing that's today at 6:30 p.m. in Bridgeport at City Hall, but also, gonna keep organizing after today because it's just a jump off. It's not like the last opportunity.
So
but yeah.
Do you feel like, Catherine, that people are listening to this and thinking that this might not be a good idea?
Yeah.
What are you hearing on the streets from people and parents and other stakeholders? I mean, teachers cannot be happy about this either.
Dude, a lot of them don't even know. So the residents of the area, because they see the construction site, mind you, this is not set in stone. They haven't broken ground. They demolished the building, but they are not have the final approval to start building the school, which is also why I feel a sense of urgency. But teachers didn't know, because I've been reaching out to teachers. I've been reaching out to teachers' representatives, and they're like, whoa, this is the first time we're hearing this. The Board of Ed, this is the first time they're hearing of this. Students, this is the first time they're hearing of this. It's insane. And that's a part of the environmental injustice issue. If you don't have a public hearing, if you don't tell anyone anything, they can't say anything until it's too late. You know what I mean? That's a classic tactic. Keep people out of the loop. Don't tell them what's going on, and although it's been in the newspaper and what have you, when was the last time you read a newspaper, Babz?
I read one every day because I run one, but
okay. Yeah, you read yours, you know what I mean? So it's just like, that's not community engagement, if they really wanted communities, they would have had school assembly at Bassick talking about this, you know what I mean? It would have been that simple. So there's a whole lot of environmental racism going on. And it's like, again, the main tactic is like, people are left in the dark until it's too late. And so for me, I'm like, whoa, but it's not too late. So I'm trying to shine a light on this as much as possible. And when people do hear about it, they're all appalled in the same way you were. They're kind of like, what? Like, they're trying to do what, where? And those are my sentiments exactly.
Wow. So do you have a team of people? Is it just you? Is there a crew? What's happening?
Yeah, squad. Yeah, because there's always other people. Maisa Tisdale, who runs the Freeman Center, the Marion Eliza Freeman Center, she's been doing this largely by herself since February. So I hopped on then, and now I'm like, okay, let's get back to it. And I have folks who are helping me in and out, but in terms of people who are like largely committed to it, it's mostly like me and Maisa, but we're getting other people on board for sure. That's a big part of the organizing that I'm doing right now. There are a lot of organizations, Save the Sound, they're highly on board. They're like, whoa, let's not do this. Sierra Club is not into it, Sunrise Connecticut, they're not into it. There are a lot of people who are supporting the efforts, but that always varies because there's 1,000,001 different things that are going on in the state. You know what I mean? Like, I'm almost certain there's probably another Bassick High situation happening right now that I don't know about.
Oh, I'm sure. So what does the leadership of the city say? Like, what have you spoken to the mayor? Have you had the mayor's ear? Have you talked to the legislative body and the what do they have? The city council?
Yeah, so I'm gonna do some of that. I'm gonna try to do a lot of that tonight. I have not engaged other certain folks yet. When I was trying to, when I was working at state government, I was trying to engage folks there, but there was a lot of kind of like, oh, but they're going to raise the first floor. And I'm like, that's not enough. And that's a problem, right? And that's like people at Deep were telling me this. And so I wanted to raise it to the governor, but I didn't get an opportunity to. Still working on that. Haven't reached out to the mayor yet. But there are a large part of how this has been able to move forward so quickly in such a shady way is because city council wants it to happen. It's because the representative of that section of Bridgeport, the West End, South End, they want it to happen. It's because the mayor wants it to happen. But does that mean it's good for constituents? Does that mean it's good for the planet? No.
You might need an environmental lawyer and make an injunction of some sort. Like I just feel like you have to stop these people.
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem. And it's like so preventable. I think that's what drives me craziest, is that this is so preventable. And at the end of the day, it's like, why? Why are we doing this? Why would you ignore climate science when we know sea level is going to keep rising? So now you're making them at increased risk of coastal flooding at that. The Long Island Sound, that's a powerful body of water. You know what I mean? That's a very powerful body of water. Long Island Sound, that's coastal flooding. We have just, you need to protect the trees. You need to protect Seaside Park. Seaside Park, not only is it just a living entity, you know, like it's life affirming. The trees are a major species there, but so are all of the birds and the bees and the deer and the foxes that live there, that is their habitat, you know? You have to do things to protect the residents who live there, who already have been unprotected. They did not want those gas plants there. They certainly obviously didn't want the coal plant there. Took a long time to get rid of that. And then they tried to fight off the hydrogen plants that were put there, actively fighting it off, still got put there against their will. You know what I mean? So it's just like, those are classic cases of environmental racism that are also, of course, harming all of the life that's there, right? So we're not stewarding the land and we're not protecting our people. We're not protecting our constituents. And it's not okay. And it doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to live like this. We don't have to die like this. We don't have to keep making these decisions. And in fact, we absolutely do not have time to keep making these decisions because everything matters so much now. And a school, that's 100-year infrastructure. You know what I mean? In this climate, that's just not gonna, that's not gonna last 100 years in this climate, you know what I mean? And on top of that, it's $129 million investment that you and I are paying for as taxpayers in Connecticut. I don't want to invest my money there. I would never invest my money there. There are plenty of climate scientists that are like, hey, when it comes to coastal lines, it's time to retreat. You got to stop putting things there, you know? And maybe it's a lot harder to convince people who live somewhere their whole life, like, hey, maybe you should move. That's a different battle. That's hard. But it's really a simple to not put brand new infrastructure there.
Yeah.
Especially when that'll make an issue worse, you know? And the basic students deserve better. The teachers deserve better. The staff deserve better. It's just not a good idea, plain and simple. It's just not a good idea. It's an objectively bad idea. And so I'm going to do what I can. I was a 2016 salutatorian, first is the worst, second is the best. And so for me, I'm like, this also, you know, it's personal. So
listen, it sounds like you've hit the ground running, and that you are operating from a place of urgency.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like they've made hardcore decisions yet, but I dare say they probably were trying to just move this through without anybody noticing, you know. I find Absolutely. That to be a challenging relationship between a municipality and its citizens, that they would not engage them in these kinds of matters.
It's not okay. On top of that, there was supposed to be this project called Resilient Bridgeport that was designed after Hurricane Sandy, as part of the Rebuild by Design national competition for the coastal states like New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. And it was supposed to protect that neighborhood specifically from coastal flooding, because when the hurricanes hit, when the storms hit, it's really bad. Mind you, I want to say this really clearly. Hurricane Sandy, like, Connecticut got lucky with respect to the damage with Hurricane Sandy. Like, if the hurricane moved over to Connecticut about 4 hours earlier, it would have hit New Jersey. It would have hit Connecticut the way it hit New Jersey. The major difference was that we didn't get rainfall. So we were getting the coastal, you know, the hurricane in that way, but we weren't simultaneously getting rainfall. It would have been significantly more devastating if we had both forms of impact at the same time. And that is likely to happen in the future. You know what I mean?
Well, we're seeing all these devastating environmental challenges that
Yeah.
people haven't seen in 100 years. And now they're starting to look like they're coming every other year. Like, this is only should happen 100 years.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, but we're seeing it again this year. We're seeing it again next year.
And it's just going to keep getting worse, right? And to finish the prior thought, Resilient Bridgeport didn't happen. So some of the early rhetoric was like, oh, Bassick is going to be protected by Resilient Bridgeport, but Resilient Bridgeport didn't happen, which is an issue in of itself. And so it's like, oh, at least put Resilient Bridgeport in first. And then they're like, let's just put the school in and figure it out. And it's like, what is wrong with what's happening? Like, why would we do this? So, you know, so yeah, Babz. So that's what's going on. That's at the forefront of my mind right now. But on top of that, again, like with this comes the broader task of shifting our culture in general and the decision making that's going on, because we can't keep having situations like this. There are only so many me's that are gonna catch these just in time and try my best, you know what I mean? But our policymakers have to shift their mindset. Our bureaucrats have to shift their mindset. Our construction folks at every level, state, local, etc. Everyone has to be a lot more proactive and life-minded, you know? It's a matter of choosing life, you know, in my it's a matter of choosing life. I don't know. I say that broadly,
but I mean, but that's very real. First of all, to put a school on a coastline that is already under siege is number one. To put a school between two environmentally challenging, a coal factory and whatever else is over there.
2 gas plants. The coal factory got closed.
And a gas plant, but I'm sure there's some residual whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, they're still remediating the land. Yeah.
Yeah. See, and I you know, I hear about remediation all the time, but I'm not so sure I trust it 100%. Like, I just feel like that's been going on for so long. Yeah, you could take the topsoil off, but seriously, but how far down is too far down? Do you know what I mean? Like, what is the implications of that? And do we wait until we start to see abnormal birth defects and health challenges of people that we wouldn't see?
We already see them. That's part of how advocates were able to get the coal plant, because the the infant birth death rates were so high in that area. Specifically, the area that was inundated with the air pollution from the coal plant. Babies were dying. People have such chronic asthma. The rates of asthma and asthma hospitalization throughout Connecticut are much higher for Black and Hispanic youth compared to white youth. And why is that? It's because 71% of Black and Hispanic youth live in, you know, our major cities: Bridgeport, Stamford, Hartford, New Haven, Waterbury. And those are the areas where all these coal plants, all these gas plants tend to be located. None of that's a coincidence. We know the science, you know, connecting air pollution with asthma rates, with lung cancer, with heart disease. We know the science makes it clear that increased exposure to air pollution equals bad health. Why would you put a high school there? You know, you're doing that to the kids, but you're also doing that to the dedicated teachers that are going to work there for decades. You know what I mean? That's not good. And we're having a national teacher shortage. You want teachers to work at your school? Put it in a good, healthy spot. How about that?
Yeah, that's a good idea. So what can people do? How can people support you? How can people get behind this? How can people help raise awareness?
Yeah, so I would say start by following Seaside Sounds Club on Instagram. I have a list, so Seaside Sounds, SONDS Club on Instagram, because I keep pumping out information on there. But today at 6:30 p.m. there's a city council hearing, and even if you can't testify, please come stand in solidarity and get connected with other folks. City council, our city hall in Bridgeport is at 45 Lion Terrace. Again, public comment starts at 6:30. And then, you know, we'll likely be organizing for the next city council meeting, which will be on December 5th. If you want to just hang out and learn more beforehand, you can meet at Bridgeport Creates today from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. I'll be there kind of just like vibing, telling people, chit-chatting, but preparing for the hearing as well. And yeah, stay tuned. But I think the easiest way to stay active would be follow Seaside Sounds Club, because then you'll get.
I just did.
Yay! Yeah,
So
and
I can send it around.
Yeah, that'd be great, because then folks can, get all this information in writing and get it up to date consistently.
So as you are working on this, I think that I hear you say you might consider furthering your education. Is that still on the table?
Yeah, I don't know when. I will become Dr. Cat eventually, but Dr. Cat Morris, I really do. I'm a nerd. I really am. I just love learning. I love being a student of life, and I really. So my undergraduate background, I have my master's in public policy, but before that, I have my degrees are in cognitive science and anthropology. So I love studying people, I love studying culture, but I also love studying behavioral science and how brains work, how intelligent beings think, know, perceive, and act. And I specify intelligent beings because while anthropology is centered around humans, cognitive science is about humans, animals, and artificial intelligence. Like, it's just so interesting to me. So I do have that life and people and animal-centered academic background and kind of spiritual background, and then I'm trying to morph that professionally in various ways. So I will get my PhD eventually. I haven't decided when. I'm in a transitional phase right now. Like,
I think you need a law degree, girl, in environmental law.
So I don't know. Maybe. People have said that. I've heard that before.
Or deal with artificial intelligent ethics. You need to be able to fight that too.
AI is inevitable. I feel like I'm just like, I'm gonna be your homie, like be on my side, like I'm on your side, like we're cool, yeah, there are just so many ways to show up in the world. I'm trying to figure it out, because at the end of the day, I'm a creative and I love connecting. So it's just like how I do that. I speak on podcasts and panels all the time. I could start a podcast. Would you listen to my podcast if I started?
I absolutely would.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
Absolutely would.
People keep telling me to start one, but I don't know. I'm also about to hop on to moderate a panel on free bus fare because people want to continue it. And right now,
I think they going for another 6 months, 5 months.
Like that. But it's like, let's make it permanent. Like, let's just do it. It's really good for the more we increase public transit, the better we're doing for the planet, but also the economy. People, since everyone cares about the economy, I'm not a capitalist, but when people want to think about things in fiscal terms, if more people have access to public transportation, they can get to more jobs. So that's just better. And you can also get to more places to spend your money. So it's just like, I think the future a brighter future in Connecticut entails a lot more public transportation, and free fare, I think, is just a great route to get there. So anyway, I'm moderating a panel. I guess I have to be neutral, but we'll see. Yeah.
I so appreciate your time this morning. You must come back. I want to know what happens after the fact. I want to know what happens after.
I'll keep you posted.
These hearings. Keep me posted.
I will. Okay, yeah. Follow Seaside Sounds Club. Save Bassick High. Let's do it.
I got you. and I'm gonna try to pop by Bloom on Monday to see you do your thing.
Yes. Monday the 28th, 5 to 9 p.m. This is open to the community. Bloom, you already know Bloom is just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. We're gonna have that bonfire popping. So my friend, she's a farmer and the chef. She's vegan. She's Haitian. She's gorgeous, and it's going to be a great time. So we're going to have delicious food.
All right, I'm coming.
Yay!
All right. Well, thank you, Miss Morris. This was lovely. Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
And keep me posted.
Will do. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you. All right, Harry Jones, it is time for us to leave. I'm sorry Zibby Owens wasn't with us this morning, but I'm in communication with the peoples and they'll get back to me with another date for her. But tomorrow I have Camila Forbes, who was part of that sportsman conversation. She is exec over at Apollo Theater. So that'd be the conversation tomorrow, 10:15. So y'all be good out there in these streets, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Mm-hmm.